Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Eclipsing Non-Binary and my pronouns are they, them. Fall is fast approaching and on September 22nd it arrives with the autumnal equinox. That is, of course, only valid if you live in the northern hemisphere, like I do. If you live in the south, then the long harsh nights of winter are nearly at an end as spring arrives. Equinox, derived from the Latin equi, comes from equus, meaning equal, and nox is the Latin word for night. It is when the days and nights will be nearly equal in length. 2 equinoxes happen every year, once in March as the sun heads northward in the sky, and once in September when the sun moves southward. As you may know, the seasons are dictated by the Earth's axial tilt and its relative angle to the sun. As it makes its journey around the sun, the amount of sunlight various parts of the Earth receive changes over the course of the year. For example, in the northern hemisphere, during the astronomical summer, there is more sunlight received by the northern half of the Earth, thus longer days and warmer average temperatures, whereas the reverse can be said for the southern hemisphere. For sky watchers, you will notice the sun's location in the sky will change. During the summer, the sun appears at a higher angle in the sky, and as winter draws closer, the angle decreases, and during winter, the sun will be closer to the horizon. At extreme latitudes, this will be even more noticeable, to the point where the sun may not even cross the horizon all day. The equinox occurs when the sun is directly above the Earth's equator, and in the sky, it appears on the celestial equator. Where I live in Chicago, the celestial equator is about 48 degrees over the horizon. On equinox day, the sun will cross the celestial equator and will appear about 48 degrees over the horizon. If you know your latitude, simply subtract that number from 90 degrees to find out what angle the celestial equator is for you. On this day, the sun will also rise due east and set due west, almost exactly. The sun will cross the equator at exactly 7:21 p.m. Universal Coordinated Time, or 2:21 p.m. in Central Time. Some cultures around the world will mark equinoxes as special occasions. Here are just a few. Spring Day is celebrated by many countries all around the world. In Argentina, students will get the whole day off from school in celebration of Students' Day, which happens on the day of the spring equinox. Teenage students will generally use the time to go to music festivals, have picnics, and hang out with their friends. Bolivia also celebrates Students' Day, but also Dia de Amor, or the Day of Love, on September 21st, where lovers will take the time to enjoy each other's company by giving each other gifts and going on dates. In South Africa, Spring Day is also celebrated, but on September 1st. People will gather around with friends and family and have a braai, or a South African version of a cookout or barbecue. Most famously, thousands of people flock to Stonehenge in the UK for both equinoxes and solstices, though it seems not in the past year. While it is well known that the sun aligns with specific stones during the solstices, I wasn't able to find anything significant about equinoxes. It seems the builders of Stonehenge didn't think equinoxes were all that exciting when constructing it. However, that still hasn't stopped people from traveling all around the world to celebrate the equinox at Stonehenge during modern times. Similarly, there are many ancient structures all around the world that have been constructed with built-in solar calendars, such as the Great Pyramids of Giza in Egypt and Machu Picchu in Peru. Of course, here in the United States, the start of fall means pumpkin spice latte season. The autumn is a time to enjoy the bounty of fruits and vegetables that are harvested right around this time, including pumpkins, apples, corn, and other squash. From the start of September all the way up through the month of November, you won't go anywhere without seeing pumpkin and harvest-themed decor, going to harvest festivals and corn mazes. People in the United States really choose to go all out with the farm core aesthetic this time of year. In China, the Moon Festival marks the second biggest celebration of the year. Also known as the Mooncake Festival, it happens on the 15th day of the 8th month of the Chinese lunar calendar. In 2021, this festival will start on the 19th and will last for 3 days. This is meant to be a time to celebrate the harvest and the moon, and people will gather with family and friends to sit around a table and feast on delicious food, including special mooncakes made for the festival. Other Asian countries, such as Singapore and Vietnam, will also celebrate the Moon Festival, although it is called the Mid-Autumn Festival in most other places. Since we are on the subject of the moon and the harvest, the full moon that happens closest to the autumnal equinox is usually called the harvest moon. All full moons have names depending on the month they are in, but the harvest moon can happen in September or October for Northern Hemisphere folks. When the harvest moon is in October, the September full moon is called the corn moon. While the name harvest moon might be European in origin, the corn moon comes from the Algonquin tribe of eastern United States and Canada, and thus might not be called the corn moon worldwide. This year, the harvest moon happens on September 20th. The harvest moon is different from most full moons because of an unusual phenomena that occurs with it. Typically, the moon rises about 50 minutes later every single night, since the Earth is not only rotating, but the moon is also orbiting the Earth. By the time the Earth has completed one full rotation, the moon has revolved an extra 12 degrees in its path, and thus the Earth must turn an extra 12 degrees to face the moon again. However, we find that on the days around the harvest moon, the moon is rising a mere 10 to 30 minutes later every night, just around sunset for several nights in a row. In fact, the most northern latitudes will experience shorter gaps between moon rises. This is because the moon sits very near the ecliptic, and it just so happens that the part of the ecliptic on the eastern horizon at the time makes the smallest angle with the horizon, meaning that from night to night, the moonrise happens much farther north, giving the appearance of the moon taking a parallel path across the sky. With the moon rising so close to sunset for so many days in a row, this gives extra natural light to go off of when the sun is setting later every night. Farmers take advantage of the extra light to be able to work longer hours and get their crops harvested sooner. Thus, the harvest moon. Those that live in the south get a harvest moon too, but around the March equinox. Instead, southern hemisphere folks are experiencing the opposite effect, where around the spring equinox, the angle made by the ecliptic and the horizon is the steepest, and thus the moon rises are happening an hour to an hour and a half later every night, and the time difference will be bigger the farther south you go. Since I only mentioned a few traditions people have to celebrate the equinox, my question for you is, what do you do to celebrate the start of spring or fall in September? Do you call the September moon a different name than what I mentioned before? Let me know in the comments. That's all the time I have today, and thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, you should give it a like. And if you found me interesting, you should hit subscribe so you can get more content. Until next time, see you!